crazy to think that there's no owner's manual to the brain, because there really should be. So much goes unnoticed between the two systems of our brain, and it's really important to understand what's happening if we want to develop rationality and objectivity. Today we're talking about the subconscious and conscious parts of our brain. Let's get started. These two parts of the brain go by a lot of names. Daniel Kahneman in his book Thinking Fast and Slow calls them System 1 and System 2. But it's not really what you call them that's important, but more your definitions of them. So that's what we're going to really be focusing in on today. We're going to start with System 1. So System 2 is synonymous with your unconscious brain, and this happens obviously unconsciously or automatically. So this is perhaps detecting where a sound has come from. That would be something that System 1 is operating on, something that's automatic. But what's really important to understand is that System 1 is laying the foundation for the beliefs of System 2. So what goes on subconsciously is so important to how we think. On the other hand, we have System 2. This is our conscious part of our brain, and its main purpose is allocating attention and focus to certain tasks. So if you're trying to do a math problem, that's going to be more System 2 dependent. But if you're reading a book, for example, you kind of read it automatically. That's more System 1 dependent. So one of the best ways to understand how these systems work, the conscious and subconscious brain, is to look at them through the lens of different examples of how they interact. The first thing to note is that System 2 is kind of lazy. So when System 1 can take over, it will. So if consciously we are very tired, for example, we haven't eaten in a while, we're more likely to let our subconscious brain do the thinking for us, which makes us inherently more impulsive and less rational. So it kind of goes without saying, if rational decisions need to be made, you need to make sure that System 2 is operating at full capacity, which means you should be well fed and well rested. In associative thinking, ideas that have been evoked will unconsciously trigger other similar ideas in kind of a avalanche of activity throughout your entire brain. So this would be System 1, or subconsciously dependent. In some examples, these ideas will actually mutually reinforce themselves, and this is called associative coherence. There's actually a study done to show the effects of associative coherence, and it dealt with having students go and memorize and focus on words that were more associated with older people. And as a result, these students actually walk slower to class. So it shows that what's on our brain, even though it's very loosely connected to how we operate, what's on that subconscious part of our brain will actually affect not only how we think, but literally how we move. Priming is really an application of associative thinking used to trigger certain emotions or trigger certain ideas in our brains. There are many examples of how priming can work. I'll just name a few. One of them is that the idea of money will promote individualistic behavior, or another one, that reminding people of mortality will make authoritarian ideas seem more appealing. It's very interesting to see how this can affect our brains so easily and so quickly. So now we know a little bit about associative thinking and the application of it, which is priming. We really have to understand, how can we fix this? How can we avoid these things in everyday conversation, in reading books and stuff like that? It's really important when we're looking for information that we can kind of figure out when we're being set up for something, when we're being primed to believe something that maybe isn't perfectly rational. The most important thing is educating ourselves about associative thinking and priming, which you've just done. Secondly, we have to teach System 2, or our conscious brain, to catch our subconscious brain acting irrationally. I found that the best way to do this is to keep associative thinking and priming kind of in the back of your brain as you're looking through information. So as you're reading a book, for example, and you'll see you start to catch yourself falling into priming, or maybe not being convinced of the priming, but at least seeing it in the written text, or listening to a conversation, a debate, or something like that. And this is the first step. The more the System 2 can catch System 1, the stronger your rationality will become. For more information about developing rational skills in order to understand the meaning of our lives, make sure to subscribe here.